People need an income that's guaranteed to them.
If you lose money to taxes, you're never getting that money back.
You need to get serious about adding some lower risk.
Greed. I don't like greed.
The thing to be afraid of, honestly, is the thing that we're not thinking of, the black swan event.
There's a tsunami coming. Bye.
Welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Just coffee talk.
There's a lot of noise, a lot of chatter. Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? You have to stay focused.
A fun and informative look at the issues of wealth, retirement, and protecting your life savings.
These advisors out there that were trained to sell, and have all these fees. They don't want to talk about this product, so they make less money.
And now, Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Hello again, and welcome to another edition of Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. A lot of good stories today and information as well. As interest rates go down, I mean, we've seen them come down quite a bit. Is there a move that you should be making with your money, especially when it comes to bonds? We'll talk through that one. We've seen a lot of layoffs in the news. What if that happens to you? You're a couple of years from retirement, a couple of years from Medicare. What are your options out there? You sit down with Charisse. We'll talk through that one. And on the second half of the show, we have a really interesting interview for you today. A local celebrity, really, Chester Weber, who is the guy who runs Live Oak. And he's got a very interesting past as far as horses are concerned within his own skills. But he also has a big event coming up not too long from now in March, which is one of the things that's really a highlight for our area. So we'll talk through that, how to get tickets, and what's going to happen at Live Oak. But for right now, let's get started with another edition of Retirement Coffee Talk. Well, what we do here on the show is we talk about retirement, and we talk about some of the things that you might be in for when it comes to retirement, and maybe some of the things you're worried about when it comes to retirement. So last week on the show, we hit on a topic that I think is kind of close to everybody's heart, and that is you're in retirement and then all of a sudden something happens, some big expense. Last week we had a guy who wrote in and he said, I'm a DIYer. I did a good job on my retirement, but boy, when I had the unexpected expenses, he called them budget busters. He had to adjust his lifestyle because something big happened in their life. Now, the Center for Retirement Research says what you should do is set 10% of your retirement savings aside each year just in case something happens. So, Charisse, how do you do that? Is it a line item where you say, okay, when the roof goes bad, we're going to put this much aside? Or is there a slush fund? Or how does it work with unexpected expenses?
Well, number one, we are planning before people even retire most of the time and asking, do we need a roof done before we retire? So we try to do those things before we retire. But there is always an emergency. Every single one of my clients, it is something from a refrigerator to a new car to a roof to plumbing to fence board. You just don't know. Oh, I want a new pool. And so when it comes to a slush fund, we do want a percentage aside, and it does not have to make money. So many people out there feel like every dollar has to make money. Right now, we're just in this climate, in this time period where every dollar can actually make money because money markets are still so generous. But there was a time they were not. So your money's still going to make money, but it doesn't have to make 5, 6, 7, 8%, right? So if you have $1 million, for example, it is okay to take 50,000 of that and put it into a glorified savings account or money market account for those emergency purposes, for maybe income you might need in 3 or 6 or 12 months. And it's okay if it makes 3 or 4%. Our money markets make a little over 4%, and our clients love it. And then the rest of the money gets invested, right? So there does need to be a little bit of a slush fund. You do not want to have to run to your financial advisor every time you need money. I mean, how annoying would that be? It's like going to mom, I need this. My refrigerator broke. I want a $1,000 coffee maker. Like, we don't want that. So yes, a slush fund is very important. If you had 500,000, I would still probably say 25 to 50,000 is okay in your slush fund, as long as you're responsible with that slush fund and you know you're not going to spend it unless it is for a slush fund and or if it is for income for the next few months also.
You know, we talk about preparing for retirement and some of the things that you can do. And do you find that people right before they retire or in the last 3 years before they retire, they take a look in their kitchen and then they go, okay, while I'm still working, we're going to do the dishwasher and we're going to do the refrigerator. And while I'm still working, we're going to buy that car so I don't have to do it in retirement, or I'm going to get my teeth done while I still am not on Medicare.
Okay.
Do people do that? They get all those big expenses out of the way that they know about?
So the one thing they don't do, because we forget all about it, is teeth. And most people don't, we're not having to worry about that till later in life. But yes, people come in and we ask them, what do we need? Let's prep for it, especially if you're still working. Let's take the income. Let's be responsible with our income. And then let's just make sure we get those things paid for, because we want to enter retirement debt-free as much as possible. You know, every dollar coming to you based on our plan is allotted for fun and bills. And that is the goal. So yes, 1,000%. 10 out of 10 people we do this with, and a lot of them are already thinking about it and are doing it before they even come in. We're just dialing in and thinking about a few more items.
Yep, get your checklist going there. Okay, refrigerator needs done. Okay, they told me I needed an implant. There's $5,000. Okay, there we go. So get all that stuff done before you retire. You're listening to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. And there you're going to see a gold box, and underneath that it'll say complimentary retirement consultation. What's that? That is a no-cost, no-obligation meeting to sit down and talk about your retirement. You want to skip all that? Just give Sharice a call. Get a date on a calendar. 833-368-3680. All right, so we just went through another decision by the Fed, and they decided they're going to pass this time around and not do an interest rate hike or lower the interest rate. We are in an environment right now where the rates are coming down. So, Sharice, you and I talked as interest rates were going up that you were helping people and you were buying short-term bonds. And then it turned and we're now going down, and you said, okay, now we want to look at more long-term bonds.
Yes.
Is that still the play right now? Or when you look at interest rates, what is the reaction that you have, and what are you doing to help people?
Well, number one, I think it was a good idea they didn't lower interest rates.
Okay.
It'll keep our stock market a little bit more stable. So that's a positive note. So there's no guarantees on the other side there with the roller coaster, but it is definitely going to be helpful. So when it comes to bonds, and we've been teaching people on radio and our workshops for years about this, is that there's an inverse relationship. So it's like the teeter-totter, right? So when interest rates go down, long-term bonds do better. When interest rates go up, long-term bonds don't always necessarily do better. It takes them a long time. So then you want to resort to short-term bonds, 1 to 3 year treasuries, honestly, 1 year, under 1 year. And so right now, when interest rates started going up in our active managed portfolios, we converted and shifted gears and went from short-term to long-term, because it was a way to make more money in a portfolio when you have a 60-40, 60 at risk, 40% safe in those bonds, to make more money, but to take less risk. So when that shift changes, we're going to shift with the change. But I want people to be very careful, because there's different bonds out there. There's the mutual fund bonds. There's exchange traded fund bonds. There's regular bonds. You can just go straight to Chevron and buy a 10-year bond, a 20-year bond, a 30-year bond. So let's talk about the types of bonds that are out there, because it's important to know who you're dealing with and why one might be better than the other. So when it comes to mutual fund bonds, they're passive. So people lost so much money when interest rates were changing gears once upon a time after the last couple of years. And that's because a mutual fund never changed their strategy. It's a buy and hold. You buy this bond. Yeah, Fidelity or Vanguard might have this great, glorious bond, but they don't typically actively manage inside the bond. So if interest rates change, you just took a loss, and now you got to wait it out. And so, but there are exchange traded funds and index bonds, which we love dearly. Most of them are buy and hold, and they're passive, but a few of them out there are active. So I like those. So what we do here at Zinnia Wealth is we actively manage most of the accounts that you bring to us if you want the active managed strategy. So every month we're making changes if the changes need to be done. So as interest rates change, if we have an exchange traded fund or an index bond fund, we are certainly going to be shifting gears to short term versus long term and looking at which ones are actually better, which ones are active, which ones are passive. So there's a lot that goes into it. So this is why working with a financial advisor is incredibly important, because we understand this, but not all financial advisors are the same, right? Because not everybody's actively managing money like we do. And I think it's very critical and more important today more than ever, because there's so many changes in the economy, the stock market, and something so simple, Randy, like interest rates. Like most people don't realize how interest rates affect the growth of your portfolio. It's not your mom and dad's and your grandma and grandpa's retirement. It is changing, and you got to keep up with the changes. And really the best way to keep up with the changes, if you're trying to mitigate some downward movement and have a little bit more consistency, is active management, but not your entire portfolio, of course. So we want to be very diversified. And again, you can go out and go buy a Pfizer bond 10-year. And then it might pay you a yield of 5%. And you're going to watch the value of that bond go up and down. But if you hold it to maturity, which I said was 10 years, then you don't take the loss, even though you're going to see the bounce around. So as long as you can emotionally handle it, they're going to be paying you that yield, right?
You know, as you were explaining that, something occurred to me. It's kind of interesting because the concept of a mutual fund is, like as Jack Bogle used to say, don't try to find the needle in the haystack, buy the whole haystack. So a mutual fund may have 500 different stocks in it. A bond fund may have the same kind of thing, hundreds of bonds in there. But what you're saying is, in this situation, maybe it's better, instead of buying the haystack, to buy the needle when it comes to bonds. It's kind of interesting. It's completely the opposite.
It is. And I prefer cherry picking. If you get an advisor or a team of CFAs with the advisor that's making these changes and recommendations, and there's a human element and there's an algorithm, I like that strategy. And this is why we keep our clients for a long time, Randy.
You're listening to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, it's zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. There'll be a gold box there that you're going to see. It says complimentary retirement consultation. And what that is, it's a fancy word for, come on, let's have a meeting. And we'll sit down and actually put paper to pencil and do the math, as we say, on your retirement. Give you a real good look at what you're in for. 833-368-3680 is our number. Again, 833-368-3680. All right, so Sharice, every day in the news, it seems like we're starting to see more and more of these big layoffs, and Amazon and Verizon, and I saw FedEx and Microsoft and Intel and Salesforce, and some of this stuff is this AI revolution coming in, but there are thousands of people right now that are being let go, and some of you might be in your 60s, and you say, well, I'm going to do 3 more years here, and then I'm done. Well, then all of a sudden that 3 years gets yanked out right from underneath you. And now what do? Do you retire, or do you go to work for Home Depot or something like that until you get to Medicare? I mean, this is kind of really nervous times for you if you're in your 60s. So, Sharice, I'm sure that you've seen this. What's the procedure that you go through with a sudden job loss when you're right on the edge of retirement?
Yeah, I was reading about that, and Amazon is laying off 16,000 people. There's a lot of layoffs right now, and we see this often. So it could be a small company layoff, a big company layoff, lots changing. And they want to keep some money in their pocket, or maybe they just don't need those employees right now. But they typically do go after the ones that are a little bit older that are making more money. So we do see those people come in. So what ends up happening, let's say you're 60 and they lay you off, and you're like, oh, I wasn't going to retire till I was 65 because I needed health insurance and I wanted to wait to collect Social Security at 65. Lo and behold, the people we have seen, as they're stressed out hunting for this job, worried about their next paycheck, some of them have come in and realized, based on what they have saved now, they actually didn't need to go back to work, which was really interesting as we started embarking in this world of retirement planning for people who are getting laid off. And I would probably say 8 out of 10 people, this is a true case. So when people are like in the ages of 58 to 62, Randy, especially if you want to work a few more years, it is prime time to come into an advisory firm to start working on the what ifs. What if I'm just tired of working? I just don't want to deal with my boss anymore. Or what if I get laid off? Or can I even retire earlier than ever planned? That age range is such a great time, because if you get that news that you're getting a layoff, how nice would it be to know, well, I've talked to Team Zinnia and they said, well, whether I retire now or 4 years from now, we can do it and we're going to be able to do the things that we want. So it's very valuable to start pre-planning, get that written plan, start working with advisors, even if you don't have money to invest, because I know a lot of you have money locked into your 401ks. You can't move them. Some people can move their 401ks when they're 59 and a half, sometimes 55, depending on what your job is. You can do that without paying taxes or penalties. So there's different nuances, and different jobs would allow you to do things and not do things, like in-service distributions. But I say create the plan. It'll give you confidence to turn on those keys and walk out the double doors and start your income plan with us specifically, and have that confidence. And I think if you have confidence in retirement and you have confidence pre-retirement, knowing when you can turn in the keys to retirement, it will just give you just a little bit more joy in making decisions, and as the stress ball comes your way, depending on what your job is, of course. So I highly advise coming in and getting that written plan and review.
Well, I don't know how many people I've talked to that say, I'm just doing this job for the healthcare benefits.
Yes.
You know, they're 62 and this happens, and then they're just trying to get to 65, trying to get to Medicare, because that's a huge expense, Sharice. If you want to try to do your own healthcare, you can do the Affordable Care Act and the Marketplace, and you can do COBRA. Mm-hmm. You can do a lot of different things, but there is not an economical solution there. It is really expensive, isn't it?
It is expensive, health insurance. You're walking on eggshells, ages 60 to 65. So you get that beautiful red, white, and blue card, your Medicare card. But a lot of people say, I have to work to 65. We have this psychological thing in our head. You have to have insurance. It could erode your retirement account. You're never going to be able to retire. But at the end of the day, if you are 60 and you think you have to work to 65 for Medicare, 9 out of 10 people we see, that is actually not true. So we take that little stress you're having, we just take it off the plate. Okay, that one's done. What's the next one? What's the next one? Okay, so you can retire, because insurance might be $1,000 a month. And hey, for you and your spouse, what if it's $2,000 a month? You're both 62. Okay, so it's $24,000 a year. That is a very high premium plan. Mm-hmm. Not too many people have those, but I'm just shaking it out that way. So 3 years, you pay $25,000 for your insurance. How do you know that you can't retire now and still have $1 million or $2 million when you're age 90? You don't, because you don't do that for a living. You do something else really precious and cool for a living. So you come to us who do this for a living, that sit with people like you each and every day, that does the math to help you figure it out. Because yes, if I was not a financial planner and I didn't know what I knew, $25,000 a year for health insurance for 3 years, Sharice, that's $75,000 out of my retirement. Like, what am I going to do? Well, I'm telling you, you're going to come in and you're going to see us. That's what you're going to do, number one. And then we're going to figure out the plan. It's either going to be a yes or it's going to be a no. Or maybe one of you get to retire first, right? Maybe one of you are older. That's typically the case, that it's time for them to retire and the other one works for a couple of years. We see that every day. So how do you know if you do not have a plan and you can't see it with your own eyeballs?
There you go. It's time to have that conversation. Don't let it get to that emergency point where you lose your job and then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in crisis. We'll handle that. That's okay. But to have a plan before the crisis hits, if you start seeing this stuff happening at work and you see something happen to your friends, this is the time to come in and let's have a plan before it happens to you. Give Sharice a call. Let's sit down and have a meeting about it. Do your retirement math, as we say. 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680. All right, Sharice, we've dealt with this story a lot, and we've blown this story up a lot, but I have a new twist on the story of you need $1.5 million to retire. And one of the things that you say all the time is they never figure in the Social Security check, and it's not that big a number. Well, I just found an article that did. So here we go. So you wonder how they get to these numbers. Here's how they get there, and here's how Social Security can blow it up. So they say that most retirees spend $5,000 to $6,000 a month. So if you have a 20-year retirement, you're going to need $1.5 million to make that number. I get the math. But if you factor in one Social Security check, $2,000 a month, that $1.5 million goes down to $880,000. If you figure in two Social Security payments of $2,000 apiece, your number now goes down to $300,000. So, Charisse, these huge numbers out there, they scare people. And I don't want somebody not to come in and plan their retirement or maybe actually retire when they actually could.
Yeah. So you see all these commercials on TV from Schwab and other people. What's your number?
Yeah.
You need to say, you need to save $1 million. Now it's 1.2. It keeps going up, right? And with inflation, numbers do go up, of course. But you also have to look at what are your fixed incomes. So when you come in, we're going to take inventory, right? What do you have saved? Do you have a 401k? You have savings? Do you have a brokerage account? Do you sell a house? Is it sitting in a bank? What are your fixed incomes? Do you have Social Security? Do you have pension? Do you have cash rents that are going to keep flowing in? Do you have expenses? Like, do we have that battle that we have to fight in retirement? Do I have a mortgage? Do you have car payments? Do you have credit cards? So when we take inventory and we do all this, we're going to be able to show you the math. But here's the beautiful thing about what we do and what you've done over the last 30 years. You have saved and you put your head down and you worked hard and you probably only did one trip a year just saving for retirement. You might not have drove the fanciest car for that one day when you retire so that you can do all those things you always wanted to do. So when you come in, we're going to figure out the math. So if you say, hey, Charisse, I really only need $60,000 per your example, Randy. That's $5,000 a month. We're going to assume that's net, right, after taxes. So let's just buffer that up for $67,000-ish. And let's say both of you have $2,000 each in Social Security. That's fantastic. That is $24,000 equals two people is $48,000 a year, right? And we need 60. So we're only pulling $12,000 a year from your retirement money, right? So why do you need $1 million? So you have to think about those things. So don't fear it. But I will test your retirement plan. Our advisors will test your retirement plan because what if we could sprinkle in one more check, one more trip? And so instead of doing one trip a year on that $60,000 that's going to pay your bills and give you the one trip, what if we could put another $10,000? So we're going to test that plan. We're going to say, okay, let's try $70,000 a year. What does it look like over the next 30 years? And we're going to also have your income stepping up every year with inflation because when you need to buy that new iPhone, those dollars better be there because you got to keep up with the inflation, right? So that's built into the plan. Your whole asset that you have saved, not including your houses, will be in the plan. And we're going to start figuring out the numbers. And then what if we can do $80,000 for at least the first 10 years, your go-go years when you're the healthiest and you get to get up and go? We're going to test that. And I will tell you, more times than not, people will live on 30 to 40% more income than they ever intended based on our plans that we create for them. So don't be afraid of it. If you're somebody who needs $120,000 in income, right? We're going to probably need a little bit more money saved up, somewhere around $600,000, depending if you're married, filing jointly, and or over $1.5 million if you're single, right? So we'll do the math for you and we'll figure it out. And don't sweat the small stuff. This is why we're here.
Yeah, these numbers that you see out there, and I mean, we have spent so much time blowing up these numbers and saying you don't need. Susie Orman the other day just said $10 million to retire. I'm just like,
Maybe it was a typo.
I'm having a
her
V.
Her script, her typo said one. She's like, wait, was that right?
Yeah, I'm having a V8 moment. I'm whacking myself in the middle of the head.
If I had my own plane, a couple of islands, I wouldn't need that much money too.
Gosh. So don't look at that stuff. I mean, it is really not good for you. And it's kind of like watching the news every day. You just get angry. With these stories, sometimes you won't come in to talk about your retirement because you think you're not going to ever get there. And that's when I hear people say, I'm never going to be able to retire. And it makes my heart hurt when I hear things like that. Come in, let's do your retirement math. What if you were in for a big surprise and Charisse looked at you and gave you the thumbs up, green light, you can do it if you want to. Now you can decide whether or not you want to go back to work or not. That's a good position to be in. Let's have that meeting. We do it no cost, no obligation. We call it a complimentary retirement consultation. Big word for free meeting. 833-368-3680, 833-368-3680, or ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. Hit the gold box, and you'll be on your way. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Chester Weber. Chester runs Live Oak. There's a huge event that happens every year. We want everybody to know about it and know how you can attend. If you love horses, this is the place to be. We'll check that out coming up next on Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back once again to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. As always, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. And one of the things we talk about here on the show is Charisse is a local advisor. This isn't 1-800-HELP you with your money. Charisse is right here. You'll see her at the grocery store. You see her at the school board meetings, and you're going to see her at local events around town. And we like to highlight some of the people that make those kind of events happen. And Charisse, we have one of those people here today. Tell me a little bit more.
Oh, yes. We have a special guest, dear friend of mine, too. But today's episode is special because it's not just talking about sports. It's talking about excellence, discipline, legacy, and building something world-class right here in our own backyard. So I'm joined today by someone just over the top, next level, leader in our community, partner to Ocala Leadership Conference that we just started, philanthropist, and the most decorated combined driving athlete in American history. He is a 14-time U.S. national four-in-hand champion and has represented the United States on the world stage more times than most athletes dream of. But beyond the medals, what makes him most extraordinary is what he's built. And we're going to here to talk about the Live Oak International event coming up March 13th through the 15th. Chester Weber, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Charisse.
You are
super nice to be here.
Some people are probably like, well, who's Chester and what is four in hand?
Well, those are good questions.
Yeah, it is. So before we talk about the event you're having here, why don't you kind of just talk about what is that? Because the first time I heard about it, I knew it was something huge, but I had never put eyeballs on it.
Sure. So my family's been in Ocala for longer than I've been alive. My mom bought a horse farm during the Cuban Missile Crisis here when land values were like $100 an acre or something like that. And we've bred cattle. We have about 1,000 cows at home and primarily racehorses. I'm a little bit too big. You can't see that from the radio, but most jockeys weigh about 120 pounds soaking wet. I'm 6'2" and around 215 pounds. So the idea of being a jockey went away a long time ago. With that said, I got involved in driving horses instead of riding horses. So that involved a carriage or a wagon. And I originally got involved with driving Clydesdale horses. So if you think about the world famous Budweiser Clydesdales, that's how I started my driving sort of endeavor. And sort of followed different driving disciplines till I found the sport of combined driving, which, if you may, is sort of the Formula One of carriage driving sports. Then 35 years ago now, a carriage driving club that's in the area, the Florida Whips, they came out to my family and said, hey, would you consider letting us host the cross country from a horse event at your property? And this is my parents at the time said, yeah, of course, that'd be great. And so that was 35 years ago. We started as a little teeny local club event and organically have grown into a event that attracts about 17,000 spectators and competitors from 16, 17 nations across two different disciplines, one of combined driving and the other one of show jumping with horses. It's a tournament of sport across 4 different days. and is really turned into not only an incredible horse event for the horse capital of the world, but also an event for the community. And you can enjoy horses, but there's also a kids zone sponsored by Advent Health that has face painting and bounce houses and all the normal kids zone stuff. And there's also an extensive trade fair where you can shop. And then we always try to have a little something for everyone. And we have hospitality for people in the VIP tent, from champagne and caviar to, selling Budweiser beer.
Hot dogs.
And hot dogs out of the beer truck. So, yeah.
So I went last year, and I bought a nice piece of jewelry there that was not expensive, and I'm not wearing it today. I should have worn it today. And so I thought it was lovely, all the different things you could purchase, whether you're into horses or not. So it was a little shopping. And I got to experience a VIP tent, which I thought was just over the top, free food and alcohol, even though I wasn't drinking. But it was just under the shade. You got to watch the Grand Prix part of it and all that. So I thought that was nice. And then all the arenas are decorated with sponsors and tailgating. So it's very family friendly and lots of good food. I also noticed you had a whole dog jumping in the water thing. What is that?
Yes. We've always tried to have other things that sort of, horse people all have dogs. There's not a person who has one horse that doesn't have maybe 2 or 3 dogs. So they kind of go together. There's something called dock dogs, which are, dogs that run down a dock and then they jump, like if you think about the Olympics of track and field, and they do like a long jump into water and they measure how far they go. So there's a local organization that does that. They take, dogs do something like the Olympic Games. They run down a dock and then they jump into a pool of water. The distance which they jump is measured, and of course the dog that jumps the longest wins. Super fun for family and kids to watch. Really fun entertainment, and looks like the dogs and people are having good fun, and of course horse people like that. And we try and make the event a real day in the country for people to come out and see. And whether you're a diehard horse enthusiast or just somebody who enjoys looking at horses or the trade fair or whatever it is, we have a little something for everyone.
So there's a lot of horse shows to go to in Marion County. So we have World Equestrian Center, we have HITS. What makes this one-time international event that happens once a year so different and special?
I think that, we tried to build it all around a tournament of sport. So it's all about sport at the highest level. It's governed by the FEI, which is the international governing body of Olympic horse sport. And all of the sport there is governed at that sort of standard. So it's all about sport at a super high level. And it's the only event in North America that showcases both carriage driving and show jumping. So it's unique, at least for this continent. Been to many events like that in Europe, but it's really nice. People have a variety of different horse sport to watch. And it's not watching, 7 hours of the same thing all day.
Yeah. Oh, so when I went last year, I was worried about you, actually. It's the first time I've ever seen you live. There's a water hazard. I literally got there in time and I went, that looks dangerous, right? It's more thrilling to watch it because then what they do is you go to this one arena and then you hop. So this whole entire troop of people hop over to another arena to watch the next part of it. And then we go to another. So we're all walking together. It's really the coolest thing I've ever done. And on top of that, these other arenas, it is dangerous. Like I thought you were going to get hit. Your horse was going to get hit, your team, because everything's so close and narrow. And there was one time I went, oh boy, I was like, if you did one small move, like it could knock you out or somebody else, like literally out cold.
I definitely hope that does not happen.
I know.
There's no thrills and chills like that.
No,
this year.
it's kind of.
But horses have their own mind, and they can be. Guess it could be dangerous. We've tried to make the venue really a fun place for people to be able to watch. They should be able to follow their favorite competitor. So the track that goes out between the different obstacles is laid out in a little bit of a cloverleaf pattern. So literally we try to make it so that somebody can watch their friend with just walking from one to the next. Really nice combined carriage driving the cross country on Saturday morning. Really fun over bridges and all sorts of different obstacles. It'd be a little bit like driving your station wagon around the living room with an incredible amount of speed and accuracy. And horses going kind of different directions. And it starts in the morning with youngsters and the single horses, and then you get into single ponies, and then you get into all the way up to a pair of horses, and then up to the sort of the Formula One of it, the four-in-hand of horses.
After setting up event after event and then watching your event, there's got to be so much involved in setting up such a huge event. What do you think the hardest thing is? You know, you're not just on horses, you're behind the scenes a little bit with your team managing this process.
Yeah, so everybody says, it must be so great. You know, you're going to contest your 23rd U.S. national championship at home, and that must be a huge advantage because you know the course and you know what's going on. And I would kind of scratch my head and I'm like, do you realize that there's 17,000 people that are going to show up here today, and there's traffic issues and different challenges that come at us every day? But it's a lot of fun, and we have a fantastic team that makes it happen. There are 150 volunteers with 300 volunteer jobs that help produce the Live Oak International. So competing is a lot of fun, but there's a lot of other distractions. And sometimes people are like, well, would you rather compete at home for national championships, or would you rather do that somewhere else? And the reality is sometimes it's easier to go elsewhere and do that because I can just focus on that job. For example, the second weekend in May, I'm at Royal Windsor Horse Show in the Windsor Castle just near Heathrow Airport in England. And I don't have friends or family who live in Windsor, so I just focus on doing my job, being around my team, enjoying what I have going on there. And I don't really have any distractions. Whereas, you know, if somebody's alternator is broken on their pickup truck or something like that, they inevitably ask me, hey, Chester, I need the name of a body shop or a repair company. So lots of funny distractions when competing at home. There are some advantages. The biggest advantage, though, is the crowd. The crowd, you know, being a hometown guy, they like you and they're for you, and that makes it a lot of fun.
When it comes to community, I know you guys are training on your farm, or you're training students there. Are you also hoping that this also bridges the gap to get more kids involved in horses and the competition itself?
Yeah, horses are wonderful teachers for life for all of us, because a horse, they don't care where you are or how much money you have, or they just take you for what you are, you know, how you are that day to them. A horse doesn't understand somebody holding a grudge. So they're great lessons, and 4 years ago now, I think it is, we committed to adding youth driving. The carriage driving population is typically from people who, you know, rode horses their whole life, and then they think, okay, I'm going to start driving because I have something wrong with my hip or my back or whatever it is. And then they're like, wow, I wish I had done this 15 years ago. So we decided that we would try to showcase a youth division for the driving in an effort to get kids on the biggest stage. So not unlike if you think about the U.S. Open in tennis in Flushing Meadows, they have, you know, you can go there as a junior. Now you might not be competing at Arthur Ashe Stadium or something like that. You might be on some backcourt, but just the exposure to being on that kind of stage with that kind of crowd inspires some people. And if we can just inspire one more young person who has passion to go out there and do great things. And horses, like I said, they're fantastic teachers, and they take you for exactly who you are that day.
So if after the show people come to your event and say, I hear you're the horse whisperer, what would you say to that?
I would talk very quietly. No, in all seriousness, that was too easy. I've always wanted to be known since I was a little kid. I always wanted somebody to say, hey, you know, he's a really good horseman. And when you talk about horse whisperers, I guess we're talking about Buck Brenneman or Monty Roberts or Pat Pirelli, and those guys all learned from a guy named Ray Hunt. But those guys are all really good horsemen and women. I someday would love for somebody to say, hey, wow, he's a really good horseman. But I've always thought that was for later in your career. And some people kind of tap me and say, oh, that's ridiculous, Chester. You know, you've kind of gotten there. But I live through sort of a lens in the world of humility. I hope someday that some of my heroes, the Jim Westbrooks of the world and things like that, I hope that those guys someday will say, hey, you made it. You're a horseman now. But until then, I keep working on my craft and focusing all the teeny little details that go into to making me as good as I can be at my craft. And I'll also remind everybody I may be pretty good at doing what I do, but without a fantastic team of not only horses, but people around me that are able to all yoke together in a synergetic way, there's no way to be successful.
Yeah. So we're not getting any younger. Can you compete forever in this event?
Forever is a long time.
Well, what's your forever look like?
Well, I am in the funeral business, and I can assure you of two things, Charisse. We're all going to die.
Yes.
Just don't know where, and I don't know when.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Somebody mentioned Lazarus. I think he died twice. So, really good for the funeral home. They got to do that twice. So can I do that forever? All the humor aside, can I do this forever? Horses, something that's really interesting about them is experience, hours doing it, doing horses, relating to horses, having different experiences are probably like somebody who's a money manager who's been at it for a long time. If you've seen, if you're right out of college and you just got your MBA and you're like, well, I'm brilliant, I know this market, and you're dealing with somebody who's been a broker or a trader or something like that for for decades. They're like, this market, but there are other markets, and if you're going to be really good at your job, you have to be able to deal with many different situations. So, huge advantage to having experience. So, the older you are, the more experience theoretically you have, and the better you have. But of course, in the cross country, hand-eye coordination, speed, things like that are paramount to making it happen. Therefore, I torture myself every morning. I go to the gym, I go to Iron Legion, and I lift weights, and I work out with this guy, Ted, and he is relentless at torturing me and trying to make me do things that, my 20-something-year-old self ought to do. So I try to be really committed to my own health and wellness. I try to stay really fit. And I'm hoping that I can continue on to do this. And maybe someday there'll be a great young guy, maybe one of my kids, will get involved in it, or there'll be somebody else around my program that's interested in taking up the reins of it, and I can have fun just training horses at home. Somebody asked me, where's your favorite place to drive? And I thought it was a really good question. In the beginning, I was sort of thinking about, wow, is it this venue in Aachen, Germany, or is it Windsor in England, or where's my favorite place to drive? And then I thought, that's probably not my favorite place to drive. My favorite place to drive is probably at Live Oak Stud, on any given morning, as long as it's not raining. It could be foggy. Nobody can see what you're doing, and the horse is just going really well. And there's a, perfect communication between you and the horse. That's my favorite place to drive. And yeah, it's a bonus if there's a sun coming up or something like that. But I really enjoy the fundamental work, the basic stuff to get into it. And I've thought a few times that maybe I should just, get behind some young guy and really turn the reins over to him. But I'm really competitive as a person. So then I'm like,
you'll know when it's time.
I've tried that, and I'm like,
yeah,
I'm not ready yet.
Not ready yet. Hey, that's good enough. Why don't you tell people where they can go to get tickets? Where's the location, time, date, admission price versus VIP ticket?
Sure. So everything is available at liveoakinternational.com. They're on Instagram at Live Oak International, Facebook, all the normal social media stuff. You can find us. All the ticketing gets done as well. You can find all of that stuff online, and there is a bevy of different opportunities from, a VIP ticket where you can have champagne and caviar and preferred parking to answering questions about handicapped parking. And
wait a minute, can I tell you, you want preferred parking. It's not like walking's far, but I liked preferred parking.
The interesting thing, I think what Charisse was referring to with parking is the event goes on at Live Oak Stud, our family's farm. It's about 4,700 acres. So if you park far away, it could be a long drive. But if you really like to, it's like going to a football game. If you want to have a good parking spot, you probably got to pay the guy who, to park in his backyard for, a couple bucks. But we try to have a little something for everyone. If you have little kids you want to wear out, drive to the back corner of the parking area, and, they'll be worn out by the time they get back to the car.
So this event is, in my opinion, it's just not a horse show. It's an international experience that if you haven't been to it, it's so worth going. I took my daughter for the first time last year. She ended up finding friends. They're playing in hay and dirt piles also, and they enjoyed the Clydesdales and all that kind of stuff. Chester, is there anything I have not asked you that you would really want to tell the listener before we close?
So some other interesting things. We have a color guard this year. One of my side gigs is I train horses and riders for the U.S. Army involved in a little cemetery in Arlington, Virginia. So if you're chosen to go to Arlington and given high honors there, you're put to rest with a team of 6 horses pulling a caisson. Wow. And I train all those people here in Ocala. We have a group of about 15 soldiers here now. Super worthy stuff, really, a lot of respect for the men and women who do that. And the cool thing is they're going to do a honor guard every day together with the national anthem. And if anybody's ever been to Arlington, just super touching, or seen the videos of Kennedy's funeral with the blackjack with the horse with the boots backwards. So they'll have really nice display of soldiers and horses, all the way from Arlington here.
Very nice.
Super interesting thing. And hey, if you're into dogs or face painting or Clydesdales or
shopping,
they're shopping, diamonds, everything is available. Or you just want to come out and watch horse sport at the highest level and have a really nice day in the country under beautiful, magnificent, majestic live oak trees. Live Oak's got a little something for everybody.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, Chester, I always say excellence leaves a trail, and you have certainly left one. If you want to witness the world-class competition, experience international sports at its finest, and support something that elevates Ocala on the global stage, mark your calendars, March 13th through the 15th. Get your ticket at liveoakinternational.com. And I think there is a 15% discount if you put in Coffee Talk. I'm waiting for Chloe to text me back. But if you go there, we'll make sure it's ready to rock for you. Chester, thank you not just for being a champion, but building something that brings the world to our own hometown.
Thank you so much.
Charisse, that is all the time we have on today's show. I'll give you the last word on this one.
Live by design and not by default, and we'll see you here next week.
This has been Retirement Coffee Talk. To find out more about how the strategies we've discussed on this program can build the retirement you've been wanting, call Zinnia Wealth at 352-368-3680 or visit us online at zinniawealth.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The firm only conducts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded from registration requirements. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Insurance products are offered through Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC, Florida license L078655, and Charisse Rivers, Florida license P037744. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, and Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC are affiliated entities. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the podcast and are subject to change. The information presented is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy or sell any of the securities discussed. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Any legal or tax information provided in this podcast is general in nature. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Any client experience discussed on this show are unique to that client. Annuity and life insurance guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. If you withdraw money from or surrender your contract within a certain time after investing, the insurance company may assess a surrender charge. Withdrawals may be subject to tax penalties and income taxes. Persons selling annuities or other insurance products receive compensation for these transactions. These commissions are separate and distinct from fees charged for advisory services. Insurance products also contain additional fees and expenses. Social Security rules and regulations are subject to change at any time. Always consult with your local Social Security office before acting upon any information provided herein. References to specific investments should not be construed as being past specific recommendations. The returns for various indices discussed in this podcast do not represent the performance of the firm or any of its advisory clients. Returns do not reflect the impact that advisory fees will have on an investment. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All investment strategies have potential for profit or loss. Different types of investments involve higher and lower levels of risk. There is no guarantee that a specific investment strategy will be suitable or profitable for an investor's portfolio. portfolio. Historical performance returns for investment indexes and or categories usually do not deduct transaction and or custodial charges or advisory fees, which would decrease historical performance results. There are no guarantees that a portfolio will match or outperform a specific benchmark. Investments in fixed income products are subject to liquidity risk, market risk, index rate risk, credit risk, inflation risk, purchasing power risk, and taxation risk. Because bond prices fluctuate continually, their yields change constantly.